Thank you. Good morning, and thanks, Jane, and thanks to STM for having me today. I'm really sorry I can't be there in person, and I got all dressed up for you all, and you can't see me. I'm Anna Troyes. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Before my time at the Academy, I was a commercial publisher, having worked at Blackwell, Wiley, Nature, and most recently, Walters Kluwer. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about the Academy. The AAOS was founded in 1933. It's a professional medical society. We have over 39,000 members, and we are a 501c3 where we're a charity and deliver scientific and educational content. And we're also a 501c6 where we provide our membership and our advocacy. So, our core programs for our members are similar to that of most other associations. We provide education, publications, quality, our annual meeting and other live events, advocacy, and a clinical data registry program. So the healthcare space has a lot going on in it that's putting pressure and disruption on our members and their work. We're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions of group practices, private equity, purchasing of healthcare and hospital systems, and pricing concerns at ambulatory surgical centers. Our customer preferences, I'm sure, like many of yours, have changed since the pandemic with less desire for our members to travel to live events. And we're seeing more and more competing products and services in an already really cluttered market. We're all witnessing new technologies, trying to figure out how to harness them. We're struggling with economic uncertainty, interest rates, pricing challenges, and reimbursement issues. We're still seeing supply chain problems, and there are significant issues with staffing in hospital and healthcare settings for skilled nurses and also support staff. Specifically for associations, there are also a lot of challenges. And for those of you who do work at a society, you're going to be familiar with these. Our traditional revenue sources have very little to no growth. Our membership, live events, publishing, and industry sponsorships are really challenged, and that is causing a lot of stress. We are at the Academy seeing some growth out of our registry program, but overall, without diversification or focused growth, associations will contract. But I really don't believe this is all doom and gloom. This is an opportunity, and there's no better time to adapt than when we have a choice. So I wanted to share with you the business maturity life cycle. It's something that we've used in our discussions with our board of directors, and it's a really interesting way to evaluate your business or your product or your service. As you move up the line, you can see that the chart is peaking at maturity and then moves into decline. Many associations are at that late maturity phase heading towards decline. But with some tweaks and strategy, you can flip things towards renew. So the question Jane had for us was that with so many disruptions and challenges facing associations, what is the future of research communication? So I started thinking a little bit more about how do you achieve growth and protect value? And you do this by adapting, anticipating, and personalizing your approach. So this year, the Academy has launched its new strategic plan for 24 through 28. We wanted to be bold and figure out how to move the organization toward renewal. Our new plan does have the same mission and vision, but our 5-year outcome statement has changed. It is improve musculoskeletal health through collaboration, innovation, and patient focus. New to the plan is a focus on patients and a focus on the wider community and innovation. So just for some fun, and I bet everyone's doing this these days, I plugged a prompt into ChatGPT and asked it to build me a picture of our journey toward renewal. I asked it to highlight expansion beyond our traditional segments into the community, into the patient sphere. I asked it to harness technology, AI, and innovation, collaboration, and diversity. So it created me this cartoon, which I thought was kind of dumb. AI can't do everything. And then bizarrely, ChatGPT suggested a prompt to me that it thought was better and would get me more of what I was looking for. And I just inserted the prompt that it suggested. And yeah, I don't write like that. So yeah, moving on. So with our new plan as our beacon, what do we think the future will look like? It will involve a wider focus into the community and into patients. It will harness technology through AI, data, and analytics and emerging technologies, and it will be deliberately integrated with our full content set and marketing and communications. So specifically, expanding our focus into these new areas gives us new opportunities. That's new opportunities to build content, deliver new education, new advocacy, new partnerships, new collaboration. Tapping into these markets helps us to diversify outside of the traditional orthopedic surgery space and will create innovation opportunities, growth for our staff to learn and to adapt, and to build us new economies of scale. Harnessing technology is critical to all of our futures. AI and machine learning have the opportunity to really revolutionize how we'll do our business and make us more efficient. It will be able to help us personalize and curate our insights based on current evidence. Associations have a wealth of data and analytics and trends within the market. There are opportunities to build new scalable products and services for our customers and adjacent markets so they can get the insights that they need and get a better ROI. The broad market appeal of our new strat plan will help us curate new capabilities. And finally, I think we all agree keeping abreast of new technologies is critical. Specifically, AR, VR really has the power to enhance our learning experiences to make better surgeons. There are opportunities in our space with 3D printing, robot-assisted surgeries, and with so much cool stuff with sensors. We really need to keep our eye on the future and what is happening. And finally, deliberate integration is key from both the vantage point of our content, but also marketing. Having a fully integrated content approach across all of our areas has been and continues to remain really central to our strategy. This helps us get products and services to market quickly without recreating the wheel, and also investing and upgrading our legacy systems to help us manage that. We also need to make sure that we have a cohesive marketing and communication strategy. We need to be where our audiences are so that we're engaging effectively. The future is about consistent innovation, creating and capturing value. Reduce the volatility and the dependency on shrinking business lines by diversifying and continuing to grow through innovation and reinvestment into core products and services so that we can continue to develop economic value. And finally, I'm really excited about the future. Associations have power, and we really need to lean into this. Our members trust us. We have decades of credibility, quality, and experience. We are a community. Our members are not just subscribers. They're advocates, they're leaders, and they're pioneers. They're dedicated, and that's what helps fuel our missions. We are a hub of engagement. We don't just speak, we capture attention, and we turn passive listeners into active participants. And finally, in a really cluttered world full of so much dis and misinformation, we can cut through the noise and be visible. Our platforms aren't just channels. They're stages that spotlight innovation and excellence, ensuring that our messages don't just reach, but they capture. Thank you.
I want to know, I did not prepare slides for this because Anna used all the available PowerPoint slides. But no, I fundamentally, I knew that this was a backlit screen, and you're all sick of looking at PowerPoints, and I am also fairly lazy. So that's my real excuse for it. So being in Washington, D.C., I thought, and answering this question that Jane posed about the role of society publishers and societies in the learned societies into the future, I thought maybe I would just focus on one small piece of it. Since we're in Washington, a publisher's thoughts run toward the things that this town is known for, which is policy making and criminality. So I thought that maybe we'd look at the nexus of those things and the role of societies as we go forward. So Well, we're certainly aware of all the mischief and misconduct in our industry and in scholarship, and I won't go through the litany of those things. As Liz Ferguson said on our panel yesterday, thank God I was asked to come to a panel and not discuss misconduct. Like, it was like fantastic. That hasn't happened for a long time, but we're aware of those issues. We know their problem. And they're a threat to both the scientific record and, of course, the cloud of metadata around the scientific method, like bibliometrics and the analytics, et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, we're seeing a more assertive public involvement in the scientific communications enterprise. As the public access mandates emerge after the Nelson memo, we're seeing that come to fruition here in the United States. But also, we're seeing in Europe a more assertive public policy around the publishing enterprise, including things that look remarkably like nationalization of our industry. If you look at Open Research Europe, and that creates an interesting problem, the nexus of these two events. That is a public-run system and an increasingly morally challenged atmosphere. Because, and this, I think, coming to my point, bibliometric manipulation, peer review coercion, research integrity problems in general are not illegal. They are not crimes. No one has legislated against them. A publicly run system of scientific communications would not be able to enforce some of the normative behaviors that we require. So I just wanted to focus today on our job as scientific learned societies, professional societies, and the force that we can exhibit in the future in an atmosphere where not only are crimes not punishable, but they are also evolving so quickly that you couldn't even legislate them fast enough to make them punishable. The normative influence of the fraternal organizations that we work for, sorry about fraternal, I'm trying to find a gender neutral term for fraternal, I can't. That is going to be an increasingly important role in the publishing and communications environment for learned societies. And anything that disintermediates us from the scientific conversation that is our publishing program, whether that's a lack of funding or stress on our governance structures that produce the policies that run along with it, is going to be a real danger for the scientific record. So I think the main role, or the unique role, for society publishing in the future is going to be this normative influence on the scholarly communities and the process of scientific endeavor. I'll leave it at that.
Now.
Thanks, Jane, Anna, and Stephen. Thank you all for having me today. If you can't tell by the clothes I'm wearing, which are made 100% of AI, I'm from the future. And I'm here to tell you that in the future, societies are not only relevant, but maybe more important than they ever have been. So I'm Jeff Lewandowski. I'm from the American Physical Society. I'm the director of publishing. And I'm going to start with a short video that we just released recently that I think helps describe the purpose that we've served over the last 125 years as we celebrate that anniversary, but also some of what we continue to plan to do in the future. So I showed this because I think it encompasses not only what APS does, but what a lot of societies do and have done for a long time to have impact not only on the communities they serve, but on science and society more broadly. The other reason I show it is I think this is a critical time that societies need to speak up and demonstrate the value that we do provide to science and society. The landscape is moving so quickly, and if we want to be a part of the future, we need to advocate for that. So getting back to a little bit about who we are. So this is our mission, and I'll just read the top line that, we exist to advance and diffuse the knowledge of physics for the benefit of humanity, promote physics, and serve the broader physics community. This is not going to change going into the future. How we go about it might change. So, who are we? I want to emphasize the community that we serve. So in how we go about doing that, how do we accomplish this mission? So we We have about 50,000 members in over 100 countries. Each year, over 30,000 people participate in our scientific meetings and other events, including the world's largest physics conference. And through our publications program, we publish over 20,000 articles a year, handling roughly 2.5 times that many manuscripts in 17 international peer-reviewed journal titles. I wouldn't be doing my job as director of publishing if I didn't brag a little bit about our journals and say that they're really highly regarded in the physics community. They're famous for publishing more Nobel Prize research than any other set of journals in our field. And they're also world leading by other metrics beyond the usual ones like impact factor, but things like total citations and eigenfactor and other ways to demonstrate the depth and the breadth and the reach and the impact of this publishing program. So, not only to brag about that, but to say a lot of societies, journal programs have this sort of value to their communities. And I've thought about this, having committed, most of my career here to society-owned journals. And, why is that? Why is it the societies publish, such impactful and important journals for their communities? And I think there's a connection between these two things. If you look at the community that I'm representing with the first few bullets, I don't think it's a coincidence that we're able to publish these journals for over 125 years. That means so much to those communities. It's because the communities are deeply embedded and integrated within those journals and how we do things. The quality, the robust peer review, everything we do around maintaining ethics and research integrity, innovation to drive change needed to adapt to how science is changing, all of these things and more. This is a core of what societies are, just part of what we do and why we exist. So how we'll continue into the future. So there's so much that Anna presented that is parallel with what APS is thinking about going forward. I'm presenting a really simplified view of our strategic planning going forward. But there are basically 4 major pillars. The first one is about adapting our publications, how we approach scholarly communications and doing that sustainably. Because of the audience here today and who we all are, I don't have to say that much about open access. We all know that we're moving to increasingly open, in an increasingly open world. And we need to do that sustainably so that we exist, but also so that, high quality journals and robust peer review continue to exist in that landscape. Beyond open access, we're also thinking a lot about open science, right? And going back to the panels this morning, thinking about the future, how machines are going to be increasingly integrated into how science is done. It's really what open science is all about, right? It's how do we enable machines to be a part of that process in a way that continues to lead to quality science, advancing discovery. Maybe I'll stop there on the publications. I'm going to come back to it. The connection to the global physics community, again, talking about this community, to me, this is key. How do we adapt for the future? Well, since I'm from the future, I could tell you everything about it. I can say that what was described this morning, a lot of that's true. There are also some surprises in there. I don't want to blow anybody's mind. But, here in 2024, in the present, we don't know exactly what's coming, right? So we need to be flexible. We have to have a model, a strategy, an approach that allows us to continuously adapt, right? And I think the reason why we've raised our connection to that community up is by funneling the needs of that community into everything that we do. We know that no matter what the future throws at us, we'll be prepared. We'll have that in our plans. We'll be moving in the right direction, lock in step with that community. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the APS core values and organizational effectiveness in a couple of slides. One more note about the publication piece. Like a lot of society publishers, not-for-profit publishers, our publications program is important for a couple of reasons. It directly drives mission by advancing scientific discovery and research dissemination. That's what publications programs do. That need is not going to change in the future, even if the mechanism of how we do it does change or looks different as we move forward. The other part, maybe less spoken about, is the indirect connection. And indirectly, we drive the rest of our mission, oftentimes with the funds that we generate through our publishing program in order to support those programs and activities that are not so easily monetizable, aren't so easily sustainable. And again, this is all connected, the mission, the publications, the community. Some of the programs that we do now, and I believe become more important in the future, supporting education, right? As the world changes and machines are increasingly integrated into everything that we do, education is going to be more and more important for humans to keep up with that and keep up with all of that change. The same goes for fostering international communications through our affairs programs. The world is going to continue to become more global and inclusive, and these sort of activities are going to be more important than ever. Continuing to raise up our communities and recognize underrepresented portions of our communities. The needs will change, but the need to do this probably won't change, unfortunately. In terms of public engagement and government affairs, we need to promote the excitement of what we're talking about going forward into the future, but we also have to have responsible oversight and regulation and have a voice in the creation of that. And then ethics and integrity are critical in everything that we do, and we're investing more and more in this now, and it becomes more important in the future for all the reasons we saw this morning around the impact of changing technology, opening up the door for new sorts of ethics and integrity issues to continue to creep into everything that we do in science. Continuing to foster innovation and support people in their career development. Again, these things don't change into the future. So given that what we've done for so long continues to be important, maybe more relevant going forward, how are we going to do it? So I'm coming back to organizational effectiveness. These are some of the things that we're doing here in 2024 to get ready for the future, to be flexible and adaptable. So I noted that publications directly drive our mission, but also indirectly support it through the revenues they produce. This may change going forward. We may need to, have smaller margins that we can contribute back to science in the future. So we need to make sure that everything we do is sustainable, and do that by diversifying what we consider to be products and services for our communities, and making sure that they can support themselves financially. Leveraging data and analytics. So we've built in the last year or so a brand new data and analytics team and a lot of capability, and we're developing some new systems and tools. And I can tell you that this becomes really important into understanding all the different engagement points. So I talked about the meetings and the membership and the publications and all the programs that we do. For a long time at APS, these were quite siloed. They're in different systems. The data doesn't talk to each other. It's not connected. But now we're getting better at that, and that's going to be increasingly important going forward. Anna talked about personalized offerings, and we think this is something that can be of tremendous value going forward for everybody that we serve. And then taking a product management approach, right? So once we know what it is that our communities need, that our customers need, how can we ensure that that's always injected into the development of everything that we create for those communities, and that it's done strategically and consistently? Having a culture of continuous improvement. Doing so that everybody at our organization can identify ways to do what we do for the communities we serve and do it better all the time. And then modernizing governance. We heard some interesting things about this yesterday. So just last year, for the first time ever, we included some publishing folks from this community on our publishing committee. Wild idea, I know. But I can tell you it has a tremendous impact, and we're now looking at ways to roll that out across the broader governance structure, including diversifying the types of people and the skills that they hold on our boards and council. So all of this is really about focusing the needs of our whole community, like funneling that into everything that we do and how we do it, so that we can be prepared for the future. And the last thing I'll say is that our APS core values are really critical. And the one I want to focus on is open collaboration and cooperation and partnering. And a lot of you may have seen that APS has recently joined a coalition with IOP Publishing and AIP Publishing called Purpose-Led Publishing. And we proudly declare that science is our only stakeholder. The reason we're doing this is we feel that there are things that we have, strengths and weaknesses that are unique across our organizations. And there are challenges that we've been discussing, yesterday, today, that they are really difficult. And maybe some of these can be addressed better together than they could be individually. So we've put our promise out there. We're always going to invest back into science, put research integrity ahead of profit, admit our errors and set them right, publish the content that adds to the scientific knowledge, and ensure our terms are reasonable. This is our promise. So far, this is just an announcement released a couple of months ago. We're looking to start putting some deeds behind this promise very soon. So keep an eye on this space. With that, I just want to thank you all for your attention.
So, 3 very stimulating views of how different societies, admittedly, some of the larger ones in our group, are thinking about the future and looking back. So we have about 10 minutes. I have a few questions, but I want to open it to the floor first to make sure that everybody has a chance to ask any questions. Okay, well, while you're thinking about your questions, I'm going to start. What really struck me in listening to those was this focus on diversification. Everybody mentioned that. Reaching out to new communities, patients, the public, etc., funders and drivers of sort of science policy in the future. Are you still looking back, as you're now in the future, are you still supporting researchers, and how has that changed? Has it moved beyond just research, just publishing the output? And are you doing other things to support researchers? So who wants to go? Anna, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think from our perspective, we're not just publishing articles and providing educational content, but I touched on quickly, and I'm not an expert in the area, but through our extensive registry data and our registry programs, this is really where a lot of the future on the data piece will be. These programs are collecting comprehensive data on orthopedic surgeries and procedures, allowing our members to analyze trends, benchmark their performance, and conduct research. And our analytics team will continue to grow, and it will play an important part in supporting members with data management and analysis. They'll help translate the registry data into meaningful outcomes that support peer-reviewed research, and other custom analytic projects that inform practice change and improve patient care. I think the other thing that's really critical, at least in orthopedic surgery, is continuing to lobby on Capitol Hill and advocate for more funding from federal granting agencies. We get a very, very small amount of grant funding in orthopedics. And so it continues to be a priority for us and will be going forward.
Similar to, I would imagine what Jeff would answer, the way that we consider it supporting communities, bringing them together. The IEEE does 2,100 conferences a year. That means that any given day, there are 7 IEEE conferences going on somewhere in the globe. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. It's not just about, like Anna said, articles. It's about collaboration and the serendipity of meeting someone who might be doing something a little bit different from you in electrical engineering or in aerospace design or fluid dynamics or something like that, and letting them start to talk to each other. And I think that's where one of our biggest opportunities comes in. And I spoke about it a little bit yesterday on the panel, is where we'd really like to get beyond the very narrow taxonomies of academia in our journals and our publishing programs. That is, when we launch new journals, we get ever finer slices of the taxonomy of academics, and we don't get problem solving. We don't get solutions that are multidisciplinary. We don't get scientists talking to each other, someone in agriculture, someone in public health, and someone in meteorology speaking about climate change. Because to get solutions in these areas, we need all of them to be together. So I think that it's supporting communities, but also creating communities around publishing outlets is a key piece of it.
Thanks, Stephen. Jeff, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll take a cue from one of the talks this morning that noted articles are going to look different in the future, and it was noted they might be more of a living format. I might even go as far as to say they might become more of an amoeba. They sort of are amorphous and take things on and let them go. And the reason I say that is it's pretty clear that funders want lots of research outputs to be handled more like journals have traditionally handled articles, with everything that we do around identifiers and metadata and connections between everything. I can only see that increasing going forward, not just for journal articles, but for everything that researchers do in terms of the output from their research. So, and how does that look? It's really hard to imagine because, for different disciplines, it looks quite different. Outputs are different, practices are different. Frankly, culture is different, and that's just the nature of the fact that science is a human endeavor. So who better than societies that are focused on specific communities to help them, navigate that new landscape where, research outputs are sort of going to become these amorphous things, but for a community, we can help understand what shape that takes. And then the last thing I'll say about that is maybe that's sort of the new version of record, this sort of like evolving and changing thing. And, we need to continue to be responsible stewards for that. And that might be a lot more work than it was just for a traditional article.
Thanks. We have a question from the audience. Heather?
Hi, I'm Heather Staines from Delta Think. I'm really excited to hear about the purpose-led publishing. I heard Antonia talk about it at Researcher to Reader back in February. And we see collaborations, the chemistry publishers collaborating on the Science Direct pilot in the content syndication area. And I just, I wonder how these conversations start amongst groups that have been traditionally more competitive, and whether you're hearing from other groups who might want to collaborate, particularly maybe in the medical space, from Anna, and engineering space from Stephen.
I think that it was a natural thing for us to come together and talk about this for the reasons I described. We serve a common community. I guess you could consider us competitors historically, but in a way, what we've offered those communities are quite distinct. And so our organizations have evolved to be, somewhat distinct and have that opportunity to bring our strengths together and do more together. That's the motivation. At the moment, we're focused on our three organizations because, just doing, bringing together a coalition like this is a substantial amount of work. I would emphasize that, and figuring out how to do it well, not cross any lines like antitrust considerations and things like that. But that said, we had interest in others as soon as we announced this, and in the future we'd certainly consider potentially bringing more on board. But also, I think there's opportunity for other like-minded organizations to do similar things. And like I said in my talk, we all have to advocate for the value of our sort of organizations in this landscape.
Thanks. Anna, do you want to address the question about, do you see collaboration coming up in the medical space?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's more that we can do. Just to be kind of quick and dirty about that, I think the AMA does a lot of really, really good work through their House of Delegates. And a lot of those conversations about what we can do together happen there. And I think that there's opportunity to do more.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the Science Direct pilot, which I think is a really interesting one. We've had some controversies at the IEEE about whether we want to join that initiative, because some people do consider Elsevier a significant competitor, and they just don't want to play ball with them. But I look at it a little differently. I see it as Elsevier is a kindred spirit with us. They have the same ethos as we do, and I would much rather see them construct this super mega continent than a Silicon Valley firm that has no interest in the endeavor that we're actually.
I think that's a good place to finish. So I would like to thank my panelists very much. But thank you so much. You've given us a lot to think about. So let's thank our panel.